What is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over the best custom binds for controller Fortnite players. And like I always do with these custom bind videos, that means all the different types of controller players will be covered. Non-claw, non-paddle players, players who use any type of a controller with paddles, and finally regular controller players that play claw. And what I noticed based on my last video is that it seems as time goes on, more and more players have gotten paddles on their controller. So in this video, I'm going to put more of an emphasis than usual on what specific buttons and actions you should bind those paddles to. So I'll put timestamps on the screen right now for the 3 different sections of this video, so feel free to skip to whichever part you need. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's start this video off by going over the best binds for non-claw, non-paddle players. And I'm actually going to be giving 2 different sets of binds here. The first one is for both Xbox and PS4 players, while the second one is PS4 only, and you'll see why when we get to that in the near future. So for the first set, it's the more typical binds that I believe I've shared on this channel before. It all starts with L3/left stick as edit, which also requires you to use sprint by default. For regular controller players with no paddles, L3 edit is by far the best option in my opinion. It's the quickest, it's the easiest, and as long as you hold the controller normally, your left thumb should always be sitting on that button, so it makes a lot of sense to use it as your edit. Then, other than that, the rest of this stuff here is actually pretty standard. Toggle pickaxe is Y/triangle, jump is A/X, switch mode is B/circle, and as I highlighted in a recent video, for right stick/R3, you want to make sure that bind is crouch only and not crouch/repair. And then you can just make right on the D-pad repair, since that's defaultly the button for those useless squad commands that nobody really uses anyway. What that does is it allows you to crouch faster in general, and also enables you to crouch peek if you choose to do so. Then as we move into the edit section, I think you definitely want to use RT/R2 to select the squares while editing, but confirm and reset edit are more preference. In my opinion, the better combination in terms of efficiency is what you see on the screen. Confirm edit with LT/L2 and reset edit with RB/R1. But switching those last 2 around is pretty much just as good, so it would instead be confirm edit with RB/R1 and reset edit with LT/L2. At the end of the day, I just go with whatever feels more comfortable there. Now I know that some people don't really love L3/left stick edit for a few different reasons. It isn't a ton of people, but I've heard some players say that it hurts their thumb after they've been playing for a few hours, and a small amount of people say pressing on the left stick is hard to do very quickly multiple times in a row, so it makes things like double and triple edits a little more difficult. Unfortunately for non-paddle regular grip Xbox players, there really isn't a viable alternative to L3 edit. But for the PS4 players, I have another option for you guys, which really only changes one thing. Instead of L3 being your edit button, you instead use the PS4 touchpad for edit. I believe Shaw is the most popular controller player that does this, and apparently it is a very viable alternative. Also, what this gives you the option to do, even though I personally wouldn't recommend it, is make L3 your jump button since you're no longer using it for anything. It's something that some non-paddle, non-claw players like to do because it allows them to jump and aim at the same time since they don't have to move their finger off the right thumbstick. But the reason I don't recommend it is because if you go to play a different game that doesn't have custom binds like Fortnite, then you're going to be trying to jump around with L3 and it's going to totally ruin your experience with that game. But at the end of the day, it's your choice whether or not you want to do that. Now let's move on to the binds for players who use a controller with a certain amount of paddles. So first, I'm going to show you guys the base binds and then talk about which buttons I would bind to paddles depending on whether you're using 1, 2, 3, or even 4. So in my opinion, the best edit button in the game is L3/left stick, since your left thumb should always be sitting on that button, which is really easy to press. Then other than that, the rest of the stuff you see here is pretty standard. Toggle pickaxe Y/triangle, jump A/X, switch mode B/circle, and for right stick /R3, make sure you use the crouch only bind and not crouch/repair. What that basically does is it enables you to crouch much faster, which is obviously beneficial, and then you can just make right on the D-pad repair since that button is normally used for nothing important. Then onto the edit section, I always recommend using RT/R2 to select the squares while editing, but confirm and reset edit come down to preference. I think the slightly better combination in terms of efficiency is what you see on the screen. Confirm edit with LT/L2 and reset edit with RB/R1. But you can also switch those around to be confirm edit with RB/R1 and reset edit with LT/L2. It really just comes down to what you prefer. A quick alternative I also offered in the last section for PS4 players if you don't want to use L3 as edit for whatever reason, is that you can switch edit to touchpad instead. I'm not a PS4 player myself, so I can't give a full opinion on that, but apparently it's very viable and a lot of people like using touchpad as their edit button. So now, let's move on to the paddles part of this. For one paddle players, it's simple enough. You want to make that single paddle jump, which in these binds will be A/X. There's not really any other alternative I'd possibly give for one paddle players. Jump is by far the most important thing that you want to use your paddle on. For two paddles, I think the best bet is to make one paddle jump and the other one switch mode. B/circle is a bit of a tough button to reach normally, and it's something that you do use a lot in Fortnite, so binding it to a paddle makes a lot of sense. For three paddles, I would recommend going with jump, switch mode, and then edit as your third one. This is something that can be especially appealing if you don't like to use left stick edit, so if you're an Xbox player especially and you don't have the option for touchpad, this may be a really good alternative for you even with two paddles. And finally, for four paddles, I'd go jump, switch mode, edit, and then either pulling out your pickaxe or reloading/interacting. I personally believe four paddles is really not worth the effort it takes to learn it, but there are some pros out there that do use four paddles, so I'm sure a few of you guys do as well. And the final thing that we're going to cover in this video are the best binds for players who play Claw. And I'm actually going to be sharing two options which are fairly similar but change one important thing. So even though I personally have never played Claw in my life, I frequently talk to a lot of really good players that do. And it's kind of crazy because I feel like the majority of the top Claw players all have really similar binds, which I would say is a good thing because it means they're very effective. So for the first option, the important binds here are edit is bound to Y/triangle, switch mode is bound to B/circle, jump is A on Xbox, X on PS4, toggle pickaxe is bound to left stick, which means you do need sprint by default enabled for these binds to work, and finally, as I've already said in every other section, make sure your right stick/R3 bind is crouch and not crouch/repair because it will enable you to crouch much faster. Then you can just do what I did and bind repair to right on the D-pad, which only replaces the totally useless squad commands feature. Then we move on to the editing portion of the binds. You have the good old reliable R2/RT select edit, L2/LT confirm edit, and RB/R1 reset edit. But also, as I've said in all the other sections, flipping confirm to RB/R1 and reset to L2/LT is pretty much equally as viable, so feel free to do that if you feel it's more comfortable. The second set of claw binds is exactly the same as option number 1 with only one thing changed. Instead of having edit bound to Y/triangle and switch mode bound to B/circle, you would actually flip those like you see on the screen right now. Apparently, not all Claw players grip the controller the exact same way, so for some people, B/circle edit will be better and more comfortable, while for others, Y/triangle edit will be. Just off the top of my head of the Claw players I know, I believe X and Inno use B/circle as edit and Y/triangle as switch mode, while Unknown Army uses the opposite. Don't quote me on that, but it just goes to show that both are absolutely viable. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. Which type of Fortnite controller player are you? Do you play non-claw, non-paddle, non-claw with paddles, or claw? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.